Hey, folks, how you doing? Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands motivates, and we're going to get into a really confusing but heard about topic, and you may or may not have learned it in school, even if you went to the best schools in the country. Inflation. Let's talk about it. Inflation. You hear it all the time. Don't know what it means. You might have figured out a little bit of what it means, but we need to get down to the economic understanding of inflation that I can give to you in a very easy to understand term. So inflation, there's a relationship between inflation. So when inflate things to inflate, like you inflate a balloon, and the value of your money, that's sometimes straightforward, but it's sometimes incomplete. It really deals with the value of your money is the buying power, right? So $1, what does $1 cost you and what can it buy you? We know $1 is $1, but how many dollars does it take for you to buy an item that it took less dollars for you to buy maybe 5, 10 years ago, or even last month? Inflation is the overall concept that as times goes on, goods and services will cost more. Understanding how inflation impacts and how it works essentially on the value of your money is going to help you succeed in your financial goals. Now, I'm not giving financial advice, I'm explaining financial information. The principle behind inflation goes back to central concepts of supply and demand. You want to buy something or you need something, there's a person that actually has the goods or services, creams, milks, coffees, teas, juices, and that demand of buying and selling, that buy and sell demand, supply and demand is what indicates whether the price can stay the same if it costs more for a person to give you that product, right? Congress has tasked the Federal Reserve, which is the people who dictate or interest rate cuts, and should the interest rates go up, should they stay the same, should they low? We right now see Jerome Powell as the Fed chairman, and we'll do a video on what the Fed Reserve is in another time. So inflation happens pretty consistently. It's no way to really get around it because things do cost more over time. Land costs more over time. Everything costs more over time. You remember those old videos about people calling, a 1 cent for 5 pieces of bubble gum. That meant that 1 penny had the purchasing power that you now need to pay maybe $1 or $2 for a stick of Wrigley gum for 5 sticks of gum for $1.29. Back those used to be maybe a penny for one stick, which means a penny had more value than a penny does now. So generally, each year the Federal Reserve maintains a steady inflation rate of 2% each year. So, and they manipulate interest rates while doing it. So, the value of money. So, money is essentially an exchange medium. Money is a tool. It could be gold one day, it could be, silver another day. Money used to be backed by gold. Now it's backed by pretty much the US military. So, the money's intended to equalize the trade and remove inequity that might arise from a barter system, right? So bartering system used to be where you would give me 10 cows for one, or 10 chickens for one cow. You give me this, I'll give you that. And it was more of a perceived advantage that gave people really a disadvantage depending on where you are on the economic pole. You had more cows, you could give somebody who wanted meat your sickest cow. It didn't have to be your best cow. And you could, depending on how much they needed it, ask more from them, including, almost indentured servitude. This created an imbalance. So when money was created in the sense of fiat currency or paper dollars, it gave people something to say, here's how many dollars would cost a cow on average. And I'm just using that as a way for you to understand. If everyone agrees that the dollar represents a certain value, then that value can be exchanged for goods and services. It's no longer exchanged depending on how I interpret it. Sometimes, and you'll see this one time, I remember at work, and hopefully the people watching it from my job, one guy was like, hey, they didn't want to do a certain particular job function, and he asked another nurse to trade out with him so he perceivably could have the advantage of having a job task. So he incentivized it. He said, hey, I'll switch with you doing this, and I'll also pay you $100, right? So he incentivized it. Now, she said no because she understood that he was not in a strong position because he didn't really have the value offer. He had something she didn't want. So he would have to do two choices: either suck it up, buttercup, and do his job, or he would have to increase the financial incentive that he asked for a person. That's a barter. So he could have raised it up to $300, but he wasn't that incentivized to switch. So he thought $100 would do it. It's a great thing nurses do. I actually have done it myself because someone was not willing to do something, and I said I'm not going to switch with you just because, and they pay me $100 to do it. Just a little extra incentive. That's a bartering system on a small scale. So now inflation is still the practice of decreasing the dollar's buying power by assuming that the goods and services will become more accessible and more abundant as time and technology and efficiency progresses. You got to think about it, right? Buying luxury items maybe 50 years ago used to be like a microwave, a TV was a big thing. Now you can buy a TV for like $100. It doesn't matter. Hell, you don't even need to watch TV. You can just watch it on your phone. So as technology increases the availability of things, it's essentially, kind of understandable that things will kind of cost more, or the price of what it costs for you to buy those things will decrease because your dollar's buying power, not the price will be increased, but the amount of dollars that it takes for you to buy that item will increase more dollars to buy that item because inflation is decreasing your dollar's buying powers. It's confusing, right? So because these things are easier to acquire, they should cost less to make and distribute and cost less to buy, which is why TVs are not $1,000 like they used to. But if the wages remain steady, a person will need to work less to continue purchasing the same goods or services. That's in theory. And so they started fucking with the economy, right? Inflating prices over time ensures that people will need to work continuously, roughly about the same amount of time at the same job to afford the same objects. It's a strategy to encourage people, and you get this because this is where they messing with your money, right? It's a strategy to encourage active spending instead of saving finances, overall stimulating the economy. So when they do this, they're really trying to make sure that you actually do not get to save your dollars, because if things cost more, meaning you got to spend more dollars to buy it, you're not saving as much. You're actually spending it on the economy. That's the thing I want you to understand, that this is all meant for you to spend. When things cost too much, people start spending less. So they need to lower these interest rates to make sure people can buy things at a lower rate, or people can make things at a lower cost, so everybody can keep spending. And what does the government do in turn? They spend, and get into more debt. So what happens? You keep on sucking into this whole thing, and you can't stop spending. You can't stop, buying your damn Starbucks because you can't make coffee at home in a coffee maker. That means that money loses value over time. That means the money that you set aside in your savings account or your checking account doesn't have an interest rate matching or exceeding the inflation rate, which will effectually make you lose money over time. So let's do a little way back in the fucking day kind of thing. All right. So the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics calculated that the amount of bread you could buy in 1968 for $20 would cost $156 in as much of the product as you would today if you spent the money right away. So that just goes to show you that this is why houses were so fucking cheap back in the day, because again, the inflation means that now it doesn't really cost more. The thing is, your money's not as valuable. If your money was as valuable as it was back in 1968, then housing prices would be like $100,000 would be a fucking mansion at some point. That's where it's going towards, is that it's not the price is more expensive, it's the dollar has lost value. And as we continue to be in more debt, they keep on spending and getting us in further debt. It will cost us more for the same shit, because it's not like you're getting, less loaf in a bread. It's just costing your dollars don't buy as much bread. So now what used to be $20 back, that probably has changed and made it more expensive than it is now. So we could probably put that closer to 175. So there's the other thing of inflation versus wage stagnation. If you're making a paycheck, and one thing I couldn't stand this shit, man, when you get wise enough and old enough to understand how really finances works, when you get a paycheck, if inflation is at 2% and you get a 0.5% raise, that fucking penny or 30 cents that they try to give you is bullshit. If inflation is 10% in a year and you get a 5% raise, that's the decrease in your earnings, which means that 5% difference, actually, you're going to have to pay for that by using more dollars. It means that your wages are not growing to keep up with inflation. So the Brookings Institute states plainly that stagnant wage growth since 1986, this shit's been happening since I was 5 years old, has been a direct result of policy making decisions rather than a natural development of the market. While the Federal Reserve has continued adjusting interest rates to maintain inflation at roughly 2%, which is bullshit, Congress has chosen not to increase the minimum wage each year, with the notable exception in 2009. If the federal minimum wage increase to keep pace with inflation, it will roughly be $24 an hour for minimum wage instead of the $7.25. Are you fucking kidding me? 25 that it is now. So that just goes to show you how basically, I don't want to shit on the boomers, but these fuckers have made it so that way they can keep the labor cheap while increasing profits and sipping off the cheaper. Even if you work in America, I mean, fuck, our aides make around just around $24 an hour. So basically, the people work in the hospital that work behind nurses that we work in tandem with are getting paid what relatively should be fucking minimum wage, which is crazy. You're taking care of patients. You're supposed to have a higher paying job, which means that if we had to really adjust this up for them to be paid more of a livable wage, making fucking 50 some dollars an hour, and nurses in Pennsylvania should be making somewhere damn near close to $100 an hour to keep up with inflation as it is for right now. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but that's pretty much what I see as the gist of it. So it goes to show you that because they won't raise wages up, because then again, employers would have to pay more. And that means that employers would not get the cheap labor that is American labor, in America. That's the reason why you have immigration coming over like that. They're trying to find ways to not pay Americans because Americans need to get paid more because things cost more. Your dollars are now costing you, takes $10 to pay for something that in 1960 used to probably be $2 or $1. So that's the reason why things cost more and things are out of your price range. You have to now work two jobs to do the thing that you used to buy with one job. This is why 30 years ago, $100,000 home would get you a house that now $600,000, $800,000. You look at 1995 when I was what 14 years old, and you look at homes bought then, they were $155,000, and now these homes are $700,000, and they haven't fixed one fucking thing about these homes. The generations not before me, not generation what is that, generation X, the boomer generation has really fucked us all over, because now the dollar, it takes more dollars to pay for things that essentially weren't there. I mean, I've been through the beer bug, the great financial crisis, the great recession. I mean, all of this shit has happened since I've been born. All of these economic fucking big walls, and the greatest economic benefit was back before I was even born, where all this wealth was created in this country, and that wealth is about to get transferred over once the boomer generation dies. And it's the haves and have-nots now at this point. I mean, fuck, I'm living in an apartment, still trying to afford living, and I make actually good income, but the area I live in is so fucking expensive, because my kids, they're in a very good academic area, that I got to wait until I got to literally hope for my kids to be stupid in order for me to make it. And that will never happen. And again, these are homes that when I first moved here in 2019, 2020 were $300,000. It was super affordable. And now the homes in just 5 years have gone up to damn near double. And that means that, again, you want a house, you want nice things, you're going to have to pay for it. It's going to cost you more to get the things that you want nowadays, and it's only going to get worse. How do we do that? You watch my other videos on how to prepare. You get yourself some understanding. You find ways to save money. You cut your subscriptions. You find ways to thin out your budget, trim the fat in your finances, and start to be lean financially. It's time to start making better decisions. I hope you've been educated, enlightened, and entertained. Phil Davis, Ancestry Lands motivates, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay tuned. That's it, folks. You can go to Ancestry Lands to start owning property today, with payments starting at $250 a month, no credit checks, and owning land has never been easier. It's time to build your land portfolio one property at a time. We help you to get dollars from dirt and build generational wealth by owning small plots of affordable vacant land. Contact us to learn more. Oh, and speaking of dollars from dirt, I also wrote a book about investing in land for you readers out there. My book, Getting Dollars from Dirt, A Beginner's Guide to Vacant Land Investing, is on Amazon. The link is in the description section below. Inside, you'll learn simple, easy to read insights that will have you understanding why you should own land today. For more tips and tricks, subscribe for updates, comment below, and let us know what you enjoyed about this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
And remember, like and subscribe.